Welcome to Nerd Joy, the software process and measurement cast number 872. The work has to get done, be miserable, or find joy. It's your choice. Why this matters. It's hard to motivate yourself or your team if you don't find joy in the work that you do day to day. Today, our panel includes Jeremy Berrio, John M. Quigley, Brad Biddorf, and myself. Remember, the Software Process and Measurement Cast is sponsored by Mastering Work Intake. If you start everything, you're not going to finish anything. Poor work entry means delivering less. Heck, we even hit on it in the podcast this week in terms of finding joy. Why this matters? Work intake controls what a team works on and when they work on it. Overloaded teams deliver less value. Poor prioritization leads to delivering the wrong work. Chaotic work intake costs organizations time and money. Buy a copy. Links in the show notes to J. Ross Publishing or Amazon. If you're riding along and can't write down or can't go to the website, go to Amazon or J. Ross Publishing and search for Mastering Work Intake by Jeremy Willets and Tom Cagley. Gentlemen, and I'm using that term about as loosely as it gets, I'm in the room. Today, welcome to another panel discussion. Today, we're going to go back to our friend Dan Ariely, and I'm probably not going to try to run the video accidentally in the middle of the conversation like last time. I happen to note that I really couldn't clean that up, and the listeners will get a kick out of everybody laughing at me for doing that. But this time, I'm not going to do that. I promise.
Yeah, we'll see. Accidents happen.
Well, there you go. Accidents might happen. But again, we're revisiting or talking about concept that Mr. Ariely put on, Dan Ariely, the eminent behavioral psychologist, behavioral economist, depending on how you want to call him, who is from Israel and teaches at Duke. Written lots of books. Highly recommend many of them. Can't recommend them all because I haven't read them all. Just like I haven't read all of Mr. Quigley's books. I can recommend the ones I've read, but who knows? For all I know, they're crazy. The other,
Thanks for the plug, by the way.
Well, there you go.
I'm very grateful.
On the call, Mr. Berrio, I've read his books and I highly recommend them also. All right. Joy. Joy, especially in repetitive kinds of tasks, things that we do day in, day out. Hopefully they haven't become habits. But I know we've talked about that in the past. But how do we find joy in just, I would suggest, the mundane? Okay, I guess we don't. And we're done.
Yeah. Podcast over. We're done. Joy in the mundane. I guess, what would we say would be mundane?
How about a daily scrum?
All right. For me, I've done it. There was a couple of teams I worked with where the daily scrum it started off great. It was working out really well. And then about probably 3 months afterwards, it just turned into, yeah, we're good. And instead of 15 minutes, we were done in like 4. I think probably the fastest
land speed record.
Oh, I think the fastest daily stand-up we had was literally like probably 5 minutes or less. It was just one of those. Part of it was there's people on vacation. Obviously, it was a smaller team, a smaller number of people. But still, after 5 minutes, it was like, all right, well, I guess we're done. Let's go.
Is that because you covered all the necessary things and team was familiar with the process? Or was it that people started taking things for granted?
I think people started taking things for granted. I think because a couple of those fast meetings, I would get a call probably about 20 minutes later. It's like, oh, we got to this happen. It's like, well, why didn't you bring that up during the stand up? Because now we got to call John, who was at the stand up, and I could have directed you to him, and you could have had that 10-minute conversation, and everything would have been solved by now. I think part of it is it's just, you get into cruise control. After a while, it's like same thing over and over again. And I think one of the things I did to help them almost reset their brain is we would do kind of wellness type, not wellness checks. So it's like, hey, how are you feeling today? But it would be do some deep breathing exercises. Do like a 4-4-4-4 box breathing for a few rounds. I would have everyone start with a joke. Everyone had to say one joke. It could be a bad dad joke. I had a book of dad jokes, so I kept using those. But everyone had to have some sort of joke, and it wouldn't be like on the spot. It'd be, this week we're doing jokes. This week we're doing breathing. This week we'll do some like a 4-minute meditation. We'll do kind of bring things along. And what I found was when you started doing stuff like that, you got more engagement afterwards, because now it almost kind of reset their brains. Okay, now I'm good to go. And we got a lot more value out of those meetings as we went along.
Yeah. I've used similar techniques when I teach classes. I usually start it off with a puzzle. Now the puzzle may have some association with the topic, but not a very hard association with the topic. It might be a crossword puzzle with some set of words we've covered. It could be find the word or something like that. It could even be a meme that evokes some response because it's in the general domain area. And it essentially distracts you a little bit from some of the more laborious parts of learning, maybe. Also, I've used that in non-Scrum team meetings. In fact, there was a company I worked at who had that. They had this prescribed every 2 weeks. You had something called an organizational development team, OD. It actually wasn't as bad as that face looks, Bradley, as that face you made, but we did call it odious duty from time to time. But the prescription for it, at least on the very loose, was when you get everybody in, you need to have something they call an energizer, which essentially distracts you from the stuff you just left, the flambe du jours that you're trying to beat back, or the immediate objectives, and put you in a different mind space thinking about, okay, in the ideal state, what's broken that we can fix, and how would we set about doing it? Well, and I thought that was pretty good. It actually seemed to bring everybody into the space in a good way in terms of engagement, and maybe get more people participating that otherwise would have been quiet thinking about the things they were outside working on.
John, you are a writer of, I would suggest, fairly prodigious quantities of stuff. How many books?
I'm north of 20. It's something like 25, maybe.
Okay, so you can't count the number of books that you've written on both on your hands and feet at this point.
Yeah, sadly.
So therefore you don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. So here's the thing. I'm always looking that way.
Oh, I understand that, but okay. Yeah. So when you're writing, right, and I, all of us probably have done work where we're grinding away at stuff. How do you get joy? What do you do to get joy out of those things, right? Maybe you're just always looking forward, and it's always the goal that's motivating you and reinforcing the goal, the vision, things like that. What's a trick that you use as a personal motivator to make that process joyful?
Wow, that is a really good question, because I've just finished the first pass, the last one for SAE, and the last of this thing has killed me to get it out the door. And I'd be down here in front of down here to do the work, and it would just it just wouldn't come. There was times when it just wouldn't do, like at the pace that I needed it to do. So the objective, while compelling in my mind, still wasn't enough to drag me across the finish line strong. It was more like a dragging myself on the ground across the finish line. So the objective helps some, but so do distractions. Like I play PlanetSide video
Okay.
games sometimes,
All
and
right.
I have my bass over there. That the days that it's really bad, I pick up, play a couple of songs,
Mhm.
maybe try to learn something new on the bass,
Okay.
and then I'm a little bit better prepared to do it, or read something totally away from the tech stuff that I write. And that usually impacts the writing. So I'd written some stuff on the Muses and Risk that was a function of reading some Greek tragedy stuff. Also, watched a movie. What is it? I think we talked about this before, Jason and the Argonauts, which brought the whole
Theseus.
Ship of Theseus and the configuration management discussion we had some time back. So those distractions kind of can get me back in the mode. Or when I was an engineer writing code, I'd get stuck on a piece of hardware, a piece of software that I needed to do. I'd pack the car with the tent, head up to the North Carolina mountains with the windows rolled down, listen to Jimmy Buffett, and then all of a sudden some epiphany would happen on the way up, and I'd be like, oh, I can turn around and go back home now. I know how to do this.
Those are some great examples of refreshing yourself, right? I'm thinking back to Tom's original query, which was joy in the mundane. And I'm thinking about work tickets or change requests. And that was something we approved all the time, right? And there were all these criteria for it. And I don't know if this is joy per se, or maybe it's nerd joy, but but there was so many criteria for these things, and often we took some of them for granted or assumed that they were fulfilled. And as our team got more mature and more comfortable, we actually started enforcing more of the rules or looking into them to ensure that references were correct and the tests had really been done. And in some cases, then we became more proactive. We would look ahead at things that were in the queue to say, gee, this is an area where we've had previous issues or something's been incomplete, and try to obviate those things, try to head them off before they became problems. And so by more fully exercising all of the criteria, it was a little bit rewarding, at least. I don't know if I'm confusing rewarding for joy, but
sometimes those two things are in the same neighborhood, at least, right?
Right.
So one of the examples that Ariely gave on the video, he was, the basic premise of his discussion was that he'd been early on in his career, he'd been giving the same lecture. He'd be, off. He was, I think, off flogging a book actually at the time, and so he was giving the same lecture over and over and over and over and over again, and it became not fun, right? And I think,
and he would
go ahead.
He would vary it, right?
Yes.
And so while I was listening to that, it reminded me, I also, at the risk of giving a plug for something outside of our domain a bit, Alan Alda has an interesting podcast called Clear and Vivid. He's also got a Clear and Vivid Science about communicating science. But in the course of listening to it, he also talks about acting. He brings in different guests. Some are actors, some are scientists. And he talks about the exact same thing, being on stage, doing a Broadway performance night after night. And he does talk about some of the same things, standing in a slightly different place, saying a word slightly differently, actually responding to the other actors, rather than, gee, I'm waiting for my cue so I can say my line. Like, how did they say that? Maybe I have to respond slightly different than the script. So it's the same concept that Dan brought forth.
And going back to, Jeremy's conversation about, how he varied the process, right, in terms of a stand-up. I mean, that was in that same basic neighborhood, right? Varying how you do it. I do remember the first time, and I must admit that I have an attention issue. I get bored very easily. And I think it was like the fifth or sixth stand-up when I was back in the day when I was a Scrum Master in that day you were doing the 3 questions. What did you do? Now, thank God they got that out of the Scrum Guide in 2020. But back then, I was still doing the 3 questions. And about the 5th time, it's like, oh my God. And everybody would give the same answer day after day after day. So I changed one of the questions. And I tell you, the first person I did it right in the middle. And it's like, Jeremy, it's your turn. I said, why don't you start off with blah? And it got it was everybody in the room turned around, got off their phone, got off whatever they're doing. And it's like, oh my God, what are you doing? They definitely reacted, kind of thing.
And also, when it comes to my turn, I can't give the same canned answer I've been giving for 7 weeks because Tom's asking a different question.
Different question. Oh my God, I'm going to have to think now.
Yeah. But when it comes to teaching a class, because that kind of plays in this, or your audience in general, it kind of goes into this. I don't work from a script. I don't write that. It's a bullet, usually from some objectives, right? And if you ask the people in the audience questions around the topic area, then you start to get some feedback that's going to dictate or drive the direction you should probably take the conversation, which is along the same lines of what you're talking here. I guest lectured in Eindhoven on configuration management with a guy named Kim Robertson. We wrote a couple of books on configuration management, and was God, I wish I could remember that. I always get this wrong. It's their version of MIT is what they called it, TUE, Technical University of Eindhoven, and so Kim thinks to ask the guy that ran the department, what's the difference in critique our lecture styles. Because he's trying to learn something and get better at it. And the guy said, Kim, you lecture like I lecture. I put the material out there, whatever. The guy's name was Tone, which, by the way, Tone is John in whatever Dutch, I guess, whatever language that is. And he said, John,
which part of the country you're in, actually.
Probably, yeah. And he said, John asks questions, and he leaves these long pauses. I said, I'll sit there for a while. They could think on this for a few minutes. It can get hot. I don't care. It can get hot for them. I'm okay with the silence because I really want to hear what y'all have to say or even think about this. Even if you don't know something or you think you might know a little, it's good to get those questions out in the open. I've asked a question, now respond in some way. With another question is good. I don't care.
So how does that make you feel when you do that?
I think I'm moving in the direction they need the thing to move. That's the whole point behind the question, right? I gauge what you know and what you don't know so we can explore the areas that you think you know and certainly the areas that you don't know.
I mean, I think the whole concept and, whether we call it joy or rewarding or whatever we want to call it, right? I think the whole idea, at least for me when I watched that video, was that we need to be engaged. We need to actually like what we're doing. It can't be just checking the box. I've got 432 slides to get through today. Death by slides, right? We've all seen those classes before. I've got to get through all 432 and I'm going to get through them. And by the time we're done, I'm going to go have a drink because it's going to be...
need it.
I'm going to need it because it isn't a fun day.
No. Especially if the slides have script underneath them. I'm like, oh, God.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. But the point is, right, we're checking the box. We're not engaging.
Yep.
The joy stuff I think he's talking about is so that we engage and actually, so we get a little value out of what we're doing, but by engaging, I think we also, we're teaching, we're writing code, we're doing, we're walking through change requests, all those kinds of things. If we're not engaged, are our clients, the people that we're doing this for, actually getting much value out of it?
Probably not.
Are the other people who are being trained or working with us understanding why we're doing something, right? Sometimes we bring a certain passion to it, or we explain the history of why something is the way it is. And they may just view it as checking the box because they don't understand where it's come from or what problem it's avoiding, or
that whole check the box mentality is lethal, and it's not good, not just in terms of engagement. It's just bad all the way around for a company. Moves us in the direction that we can check our brains at the door because we have this checklist that we go through, and we don't necessarily look at the evidence to support whether we actually are able to hit that checklist or not. It distills it into too simple.
See also the AI discussion previously.
So,
Oof.
yeah, if that is just if we're just phoning it in, it is definitely check the box. Albeit, I must say, I did create a checklist today, and I am going to show it to some people.
The checklist is not the problem. It's our idea and thoughts behind that checklist or around that checklist.
Well, I just want them to at least follow the Arthur Murray footsteps once, and then they can start. Then they can start actually having a discussion about why and wherefore. If the answer is I want to fight this right out of the box without ever having experienced something, then perhaps we're at a different story. But yeah, Atul Gawande. Have any of you read the Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande?
Oh gosh, this sounds like something I should read.
Yes.
Yeah, let me add that to my list.
There you go. All right. Well, by the way, there is a there's an associate's link on my site for that book. No, I'm kidding. I'm probably not kidding because I did read it on Reread Saturday several years ago.
Oh, shit, I should just listen to you read it. That'll save me a little bit of time. Yeah.
It is always good on those to read the book because I only talk about the parts that I thought were important the second or third time through the book. So everybody reads things and absorbs things differently.
Yeah.
One of the things that I read recently is that the great majority of people have no clue what their organization's vision is and why they're moving through. I think I sent you a link to it. It's some abysmally small number. And then we get into this problem of people just phoning the work in or just checking the box to get it done, having no joy in it. They don't know what the goal is, what the vision is, because nobody's told them or they can't find it. Lots of reasons, right? And then they're just flowing in. I think that ends up making the workplace fairly miserable.
Well, you got companies, you got organizations out there that don't even have a true vision or don't, like, even the senior executives and the leadership, no one knows. Like, they would have a vision like, oh, we want to be the best company around. It's like, okay, sure. So does the millions of other companies that are out there. They want to be the best company around. Like, what is your vision through this? And
what does that mean even?
Yeah. What are the attributes? Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't do anything. And these two teams that I worked with, we actually created a team vision. And what we did was they had to roll up to the company did have a vision. They did have vision statements, mission statements, but I pushed the team to create their own mission and vision statement for what the product that they're doing and how it rolls up into the overall vision and mission of the company. And what that did was it helped get them more engaged in the actual product and care about that product. So when we get into that mundane stuff where it's like, oh, daily stuff, blah, 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 as long as they keep getting reminded of their own vision and they see it and they move forward, then that mundane is like, okay, I got to get through this just so we can hit our vision and hit the product and get to where we want to get to it. And it really helped things get along. Another company I worked with, I remember I went in, I go, okay, I went to the senior execs, like, what's the company's mission and vision statement? And I might as well have been talking like as if I had three heads on. Like, they just kind of gave me that look, like, they shrugged their shoulders. Like, and I almost wanted to yell at them, like, well, you guys are the senior executives. How could you not know what your vision and mission is? Like, what do you want to get out of this? And in the end, they just kind of say, like, well, we want to produce a quality product and make money doing it, type of deal. I'm like, all right, we got something to work on.
Well, that's definitely motivational. I actually had beers with someone yesterday and we were discussing what their true company organization mission was, and that was to flip the company in 2 years. That was their goal.
And more honest than some people probably.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of them, that's exactly, especially startups. We're not here to actually do anything really cool. We're actually here to flip the company and and become big, get a yacht and get married in Venice.
And that just sounds horrible to me. I mean, okay, so you want to,
well,
so your objective is to not do the thing that you ostensibly get some kick out of. You know, why would you? Okay, this is not what this conversation is about. Never mind, Tom. I'm sorry. I'm getting ready to hijack us.
That's fair. That's fair. I took us down that path.
Several of the places that I've worked at, right, the goals and vision have been so high level that it's hard for an individual programmer or something. How does an individual writing software improve the free cash flow of the company?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So in all those cases, usually what eventually happens is they find one of the more understandable finance people, and they come in and give lunchtime seminars about how does this relate to your job. Or there's a flow down of goals, right? Of goals and visions. Oh, the department has this vision, our project has this vision. And each time, hopefully, it becomes more tangible for an individual working on the program.
Yeah. And I think I listened and read Simon Sinek. I think I read most of his books. I don't know how many books he got. I read 4 of them at least for him now.
You have that Y thing tattooed on you somewhere, don't you?
Oh, yeah. It's awesome. Since 2013. Or no, sorry, 2012. But he brought it up in one of his talks. He brings it up in one of his books. He's bringing us like, hey, a company's mission statement or vision is like, oh, we're basically here to make money. It's like, cool. Like I said, so is everyone else. What is your purpose for what you're doing? And that's really, I think you want to get the developers involved. They should know what the purpose is. Like, yeah, everyone's here to make money. It's a capitalist environment. That's a given. Add a little more meat to it.
You know what's really sad is that that attribute is coupled with your understanding of where you fit into the general workflow of the company. Can you, from my experience, now y'all's might be different. You're part of the piece of the entire puzzle is often not entirely known. You're lucky if you know the adjacent, as in the people upstream of me know what I need. They're going to give it to me exactly like I need it. And I know what the people downstream from me need, and I'm going to give it to them in a way that they need it because I know what they need. Just that little pipeline right there is not known. If you don't know that, then you probably have little or no chance of understanding how that impacts the end goal of the company, besides put greenbacks in our pockets or loonies or something like that.
John, I once did an evaluation of a really small company who was one of our suppliers at the time. And we were just looking at configuration management. And at the end of the event, we asked the participants, and one of the people said, oh, this is great. Now I see what happens to the other tickets in the company for work tickets, because I didn't have it. I didn't know what else happened. I only knew my little lane, right? And now I have much better visibility of what the whole company does. And the whole company was 20 people.
Yeah, because it's more than just a developer writing the thing. It's, in regarding CM, it's all the way through to the manufacturing, all the way from customer requirements all the way through to the manufacturing.
Right. Yeah, requirements all the way. Yeah,
all the way through. If you're not doing it, good luck.
Yeah, especially
you're bound to have rework.
Oh yeah, especially if there's a change somewhere along the way that nobody recognizes.
Yes. I love it when the marketing guys ambush the software guys. Can you do this? It's a simple change. The software guys say, sure, I can do that. It's really simple. And they make that change, and then the system's put together and things don't work. And you're like, what happened?
And then in my experience, the marketing guys rotate about every 18 months. So there's a new guy that says, here's your new priorities.
Yeah.
The old guy was wrong.
That's probably the origin of that other one I'm talking about.
Yeah. Those are all true statements. It boils down to that little thing, not that little thing called love, but the little thing called work input.
Yes. If we can plug something,
somebody's book,
somebody's book.
Absolutely.
It's the workflow too. It's not just the input, but it's the flow.
Yeah. Value chain management,
Yes.
I mean, all of those kinds of things. Understanding the flow is huge. and it's a lot of times viewed as overhead, not not really important to making sure that Jeremy, John, Brad, Tom, all four of us are 100% capacity utilized, doing something. I'm slamming my fist on the desk. I'm sure that's going to sound real great on the podcast. But
not only capacity utilized, but when I think, now back to joy again, right? And
thank you.
Get people in the best position for them.
Yeah.
Is a really hard thing to do. And many times, you have to take one for the team. This gentleman who's the expert on industrial scanners wants to do something else to round out his career, but there's a really important industrial scanner program coming up. We can't afford for him not to do it. And this is based on an actual example. Unfortunately, the person stayed with the company, but changed departments. A lot of people would have left the company because they didn't give him an opportunity to grow. Right.
I'm familiar with that method. I've found myself in that boat. Like, okay, so this is my career here, so it's probably time for me to, as Kung Fu from the 70s, time for you to leave.
Yeah, we won't talk about how he died. Gentlemen, to wrap this up, how do we, on these things that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, how can we inject some nerd joy into this?
I'd say always remember that you might be on the 1 foot line. Of course, it might be your own 1 foot line, if I use a football analogy, but you might be on the 1 foot line as you're getting ready to score. So you just, even if you're not getting a lot of joy, push like you need to do, because you might be on the 1 foot line. You just need one more push and you'll get to that thing in front of you that you so wish to have.
Yeah, I think it's just understanding your goals, understanding, hey, what the work that you're doing and where you're going and what it's going to end up in the end. Like for me, back in the start of my career when I was a software tester, to me at that point back then, I'm not going to say how long ago, but
3 weeks.
But to me, I was just, I just run tests. I just run a test and I tell my manager that, yeah, I'm done. Everything passed, and didn't know what happened after that. And then eventually I did get bored of it. I got bored. Like it was just, running test after test after test. Now that I work with teams and I work with people other people who do software testing, they've come up to me with the same type of thing. It's like, oh, this is kind of boring. It's like, hey, hold on. Look at take a step back. Don't look at just the tests that you're doing. Like, yes, you have to do those, but understand the bigger role that you have and you can play with achieving these goals. And when you say stuff like that, and when I told them stuff like that, it got a lot more engagement in the teams, and they started talking more to other people within the team. Like the whole breaking down silos, I kind of hate using that term. And I think, Tom, you and I have talked about this. It's like, yeah, the silos don't really go away. I would say you just kind of create bigger windows to talk through. But that's what you're doing, is you're creating that line of communication, effective communication between them, and understanding those goals, you get to where you want to get.
Brad, take us
somewhat to Jeremy's point. I think some people don't realize the amount of latitude they have, and they think they're constrained, that they always have to do it the same way. And they may have some opportunity to take more control and do more planning and see more of the big picture, be involved in it.
But assumptions in general aren't a good thing for your career or a company or businesses, especially unvetted ones. You just kind of stay in the same boat because you think that's what's required, but many times that's not.
Always challenge those assumptions.
Yeah, always. If you think you know something, but you only think it, you probably need to technically also, not just
unless you have a couple of sources, to go back to my how do you tell what's true? You got to hear it from 2 different places, from 2 different. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Back in my CMMI days, gentlemen, I want to thank you for spending time with us and talking through the whole idea of finding joy. Better yet, finding nerd joy. That's actually, I wrote that down. It's going to be the title of this panel discussion.
A chapter in the future.
There you go. Thank you again, and have a marvelous, rest of, I don't know, this week.
Yeah.
The next SPaMCAST is all about flow. Flow measures what gets delivered. Why this matters? Flow doesn't just happen. You and your organization shape how work moves. Flow measures efficiency and influences satisfaction. The SPaMCAST 873 will post on August 17th. If you'd like to participate in any of our panel discussions, email me at spamcastinfo@gmail.com. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?